Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell REnz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up here on today's show, I got the Raiders' perfect free agency targets post-June 1st. The Las Vegas Raiders, they're going to get $24.07 million thanks to cutting Jimmy Garoppolo post-June 1st cut designation. And, Jimmy G did nothing solid for this Raiders team. And I feel like I'm doing a little bit of girl math here because the Raiders, they gave him $72 million, and he wasn't worth a freaking penny of it. And because cutting him, now we're about to get $24.07 million. We're going to have a lot more money to be able to spend in free agency. So the reason why I wanted to do this show is because if Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco, if they wanted to sign any name that I'm about to bring up here, realistically, if they wanted to sign any of the 2-3 names that I'm about to bring up here, they have the flexibility to do it. The Raiders, they're going to have somewhere around $41 million on June 2nd, and that is some huge salary cap news to know. If the Raiders end up signing any of the players that we talk about here, to be honest, if they end up signing anybody that's worth of note, we'll end up going live here on the show. I will mention that it's my buddy's bachelor party, June 5th to June 9th. So if any breaking news happens during that time, it's going to be a Chugs Takeover show. And the last Chugs Takeover show got pretty wild. I think it was for Josh Jacobs' contract. Brand new contract, right? That was last off season. I will do my best to be able to zoom in. But if you want to watch Chugs do what I do up here, and you want me to zoom in and have a good time, make sure you're subscribed. I don't want you to miss it. So the way today's show is going to work, we're going to work our way from 10 all the way down to 1. And for the people that aren't watching the show live and wondering, Mitch, why are you dressed like this? You got to watch our live show on Thursday. Happy birthday to Taino Raider. Let's go, though. We're going to work our way from 10 all the way down to 1. Coming in here at number 10, it's Yannick Ngakoue. And the reason why Ngakoue is going to be on this list is because at the end of the day, I am a believer that you can never have too many edge rushers, especially when you were in the AFC, especially when you're in the AFC West. Ngakoue was on the Raiders roster back in 2021 when this team was rolling with Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator, but Josh McDaniels traded him away straight up for Rock Ya-Sin. And to be honest, I don't really think the trade was like all that bad. I think Rock was the right move to make. The Raiders needed a cornerback. It's just he was unable to stay healthy. He did only have 4 sacks last season in Chicago, and he's still okay being able to go out and get after the quarterback. But when I tell you he is horrific, I mean like he is horrific against the run. So, to me, you're only going to be able to use him on third down. You're only going to be able to use him in pass rushing situations. But before last season, every single year of his career, and he's been in the NFL since 2016, and he's not even 30 yet, but he's been in the league for that long. He has had 8 sacks at least every single season besides last year. So there's a part of me that wonders, could we get the most out of Ngakoue this upcoming season? Let's go to number 9 here. It's Zach Cunningham at linebacker, the only linebacker that is going to make this show. And the reason why he's going to be on here is because if your AP, if your Raiders linebacker coach call, if you're not 100% confident in your current linebacker regime, could you potentially bring in Cunningham, who played in 13 games last season, started in 10? He is mainly just a run stopper at this point, and he might be able to fill in here and there a little bit in coverage. But when you look at some of his PFF numbers, 69.4 overall grade, solid against the run, I'm confident in Robert Spillane for this Raiders linebacking unit. He's your captain. He's going to have the green dot. Outside of that, though, Divine Diablo has had a lot of injury concerns. I know the Raiders are confident in Eichenberg, but he's still just a rookie. Also, on top of that, you got Amari Burney. He's entering his second year. Butler's been injured, and I think Luke Masterson is not going to be a guy that makes this roster. Cunningham last season had 85 tackles in those 13 games, and I am a believer that you can't just get tied down to tackles because I do think it can be a little bit of a misleading stat because sometimes linebackers get tackles if they get beat in coverage. For Cunningham, though, he'd be a player that you'd be able to put right next to Robert Spillane and have some solid success with. Let's go to number 8 here on my Raiders free agent targets, post-June 1st targets, if you will. I'm going to go with Jerry Hughes at defensive end. And kind of what I mentioned about Ngakoue, I have for a long, long time on this show, and for all the OGs down there, for all the real ones, let me know if you remember me saying this, I've been looking for a Benson Mayowa replacement where all I need is somebody that comes in 25, 30% of the snaps, On third down, you have him pin his ears back, get north and south, and get after the quarterback. And it's not going to cost a lot of money. In fact, I think all these players are probably willing to take one-year prove-it deals at this point. And despite the fact that he's going to turn 36 years old this upcoming year, he has played in all 17 games the last 3 seasons and 34 starts. I'll admit, he only had 2 starts last season, so 32 starts in the previous 2 years with that. So he's maybe fallen down a little bit, but I also am just a believer in until I see Father Time win this battle, I'm going to believe in Jerry Hughes as the player. He can still get after the quarterback, 70 career sacks, good rotational pass rusher, and when you look at just some of the numbers over the past few years, I mean, he had 9 sacks in 2022. Tell me why, with Christian Wilkins, Adam Butler, Tyree Wilson, Maxx Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, nobody's going to pay attention to Hughes if he lines up. He's going to get one-on-one opportunities, and if he gets those one-on-one opportunities on third down, I do think that he could have quite a bit of success here with the silver and black. Here's my question. It's going to be the pinned comment on today's show because at the end of the day, the Raiders have the money to make any move that you want free agency related. And if the Raiders could sign only one free agent after June 1st, who should it be? Let me know down below. You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. Hopefully you gave me your answer. My answer is going to be coming up here on the show. Whoever is number 1 probably is the name, but I'll be real with you. I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler alert here. The players that I would sign, number 5 and number 1, would be where I would designate my money first for the Raiders post-June 1st. Let's go to number 7 on my list. I'm going to go with Calais Campbell at defensive tackle, and there's going to be another player on this show that, quite frankly, I don't know if it's that big of a need, but when you can find good football players that just make you better, why the hell aren't we doing it? Especially when you have the money to do so. He started in at least 12 games every single year. Every single year since 2009. I was a sophomore in high school the last time Calais Campbell didn't play 12 games in a season, right? Like, he is a monstrous human being. I did a video earlier this week around Campbell and why I think the Raiders could potentially use a nose tackle, because if Wilkins were to go down, if John Jenkins were to go down, then they're going to be a little bit, limited at nose tackle. In fact, if you want to check out the video that I did on Calais Campbell, you're going to be able to check it out right here. If you're watching this live, there's nothing here, but if you're watching this not live, I'm going to put a video link to be able to check it out. Campbell is a big body up the middle. He had 6.5 sacks last season. And when I look for in a defensive tackle is somebody that can eat double teams. That's why I was so excited when Telesco decided to go out and get Christian Wilkins, because I want a nose tackle. I want a big guy up the middle that does eat up double teams. I want one-on-ones for Tyree Wilson. I want one-on-ones for Maxx Crosby. I want one-on-ones for Malcolm Kuntz. And not every single defensive tackle that you get is going to be able to put up big numbers. Campbell, though, has done it. He's got an over 80 overall PFF grade, still playing at a high level despite the fact that he's almost 40 years old. But defensive tackle has been a position that you've been able to see success even when they get up there in age. Let's go to number 6 here on my list. It's Adoree Jackson at corner. And some of the shows that I've done in the past, I've actually had Jackson in my top 5. The reason why he's just starting to slide down the list a little bit is simply because there's a lot of other corners that are better, and there's other players that I have ranked above him that aren't as big of a need, but simply just a better player overall. Back in 2021, he did have a career year with the Raiders defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham, and he's going to be someone that he will take a one-year cheap prove-it deal, as he should, and as a lot of these players probably end up doing. Injuries have absolutely limited him, but he does still have that flexibility to play inside and outside. If you're the Raiders and you want to see what you got in DeCamerion Richardson, Jacorian Bennett, MJ Devonshire, any of these young players here, but you're like, you know what? I don't want to sign a free agent that as soon as I sign that guy, it takes away from their ability to get on the field. Adoree Jackson would be the name that I would at least throw in there to just add a little bit of extra competition. Because last season, I get it, he was bad. You look at these numbers here, they're not impressive at all. I'm not even going to try to spin them to make them look impressive. The reason why you invest in Adoree Jackson, think of him as a stock. The stock is very low, but the last time that stock was high was back in 2021 with Patrick Graham. I am a believer in Antonio Pierce. I am a believer in Patrick Graham. And with those two together, I simply believe that this organization can accomplish a lot of things, and because of that, I'm willing to bet on Adoree Jackson, a young player who gives you a little bit of that extra flexibility at corner, inside, outside. That's what this Raiders defense wants. Flexibility, versatility, and, it doesn't hurt to also know that he played really well with our defensive coordinator. Before I get into the top 5 players that I want the Raiders to target after June 1st with all the money that they're going to get, I know my dad's watching the show right now. He's like, you want to get me a Father's Day gift? Put your shirt down. You look like an idiot. But you know what? Hey, it is what it is. Father's Day, though, it is right around the corner. And if you don't know what to get your dad, go to chatsports.com/RaidersDad. I'm going to say it again. Raiders Dad. And we got a lot more stuff than what you're going to see up here on screen. Basically, there are hats, T-shirts, long sleeve shirts. There are hoodies. There's like cool things that you could add to, like, if your dad has a Raiders man cave. They got a bunch of Raiders man cave stuff. They also have like a bunch of Raiders picture frames on top of that where like there's multiple ones of these. I obviously was just hanging out with my dad, so we got some pictures here. But if you got a cool picture of you and your dad at a Raiders game, get him that. Maybe he needs some coffee. I mean, the amount of times my dad called up this past weekend and was like, Mitch, where's the coffee at? Sounds like he needs some. Chatsports.com/RaidersDad if you need to get your dad something special for Father's Day. Let's go to number 5 here on the list. It's Emmanuel Ogbah at defensive end, and I want the Raiders to add another DE. Like, I really, really, truly do, because outside of Kuntz, Tyree, and Maxx Crosby, there's not a lot to like, and that's just the cold, hard fact. But with Ogbah, he has worked with Rob Leonard, the Raiders defensive line coach, before, back in 2020 and 2021, and he had 18 sacks combined those 2 seasons. The most sacks that he's ever had combined in back-to-back years, guess what? 2021 and in 2020. You can never have too many edge rushers, and the fact that he has also relationships with Christian Wilkins, with Adam Butler, John Jenkins, I do think it would be a lot easier of a transition for him to be able to join this organization roster because he already knows some of the coaches and he already knows some of the players on this team. He's had at least 5 sacks in 4 of the last 5 years. Ogbah can still play, and if you need to pay him $10 million, I don't think that you need to. It's a little bit rich for my blood, but again, you have the money, you have the ability to go out and do it. Let's go to number 4, and this is a guy that just continues to climb my free agent rankings list. It's Justin Simmons, and realistically, he might be the best player on this list, and that's why he's on this free agent target list. If you see somebody doing a Raiders free agent target list of at least 10 players, and they don't have Justin Simmons on that list, my only question to them would be, why don't you want to make this team better? Because I believe in Trevon Merrick. I believe in Marcus Epps. Hell, I love the depth that we have with Isaiah Polameo, with Trey Taylor, with Chris Smith. But Justin Simmons is arguably the best player available, and because of that, why would you not at least pick up the phone and say, hey, man, like, are you busy? Do you want to be a Raider? He's got 8 years of AFC West experience, which does mean a lot to Tom Telesco. And there's a part of me where some people are like, well, Mitch, where would you play him? We can figure it out because the Raiders' cornerback room right now is kind of an I don't know. And there's a part of me that wonders is, would the Raiders' defense be better with Nate Hobbs and Jack Jones as your top 2 corners, okay? And then instead of trying to find like that other defensive back that you're going to be able to put on the field, what if we went with Justin Simmons, Marcus Epps, Trevon Merrick, and then you got Jack Jones and Nate Hobbs? I am a believer that our team on defense is going to be able to do a lot of very, very special things. And Justin Simmons is a special player, and you make room, you make adjustments, you do things that maybe you don't think you're originally going to do for special players. The Raiders are a team that went 8-9. They're a team that drafted best player available. So why not take that exact same approach into free agency? Because the best player available in free agency, his name is Justin Simmons. Now, if you guys don't already know, I put out videos every single day here on the Raiders Report, and I want you to check out my video of the week. When I tell you I put out 13, 14 videos a week, it's a cold, hard fact. And if you want to check out the best video I put out this week, it's right here. There is a certain Raiders player that has been impressing at OTAs, and if you don't know who it is, I need you to check this video out right here. Because there's going to be some people that watch this show go, all right, Mitch, this is free agent targets. It's all speculation. It is speculation. You know what? You're not wrong. This is not speculation. This is a cold, hard fact of somebody is really, really impressing at OTAs. Let's go to number 3 here on my list. It's Steven Nelson, and this is a corner who is getting up there in age again, 30, 31 years old. And he might not have the high of a ceiling as what you're going to see from these next two players, but I actually think that his floor might be safer because he's coming off back-to-back strong seasons with Houston. He has started at least 15 games in every season since 2018. He's also played over 1,000 snaps in 3 straight seasons, and he could play in multiple different schemes. And I know he could play in multiple different schemes because he's done it for the past, 5, 6 years. He's bounced around a few other NFL teams outside of just the Houston Texans. But last season, his coverage stats, 59.4 completion percentage against them, had 12 PBUs, 4 interceptions, had a quarterback rating of 70.6. You could put Nelson on the outside right now, and he might not be a legit cornerback 1. But he's a damn good cornerback, too. Like, if you're the type of Raider fan that's like, man, Mitch, you're sleeping on Jakobi Meyers. He's a great wide receiver, too. Then you're going to love Steven Nelson because what Jakobi Meyers is to this Raiders offense at a wide receiver where he's like, he's a good receiver. And everyone thinks that Jacoby's a good wide receiver, too. He's just not a wide receiver 1. That's what Steven Nelson is. He's a damn good cornerback, too. He's just not a cornerback 1. So before I reveal my top 2 free agent targets here, for the Silver and Black, I do want to throw in some honorable mentions. Patrick Peterson, because he's got a relationship with Gerald Alexander. Played a little bit of safety cornerback last season. Marcus Golden, he's got a relationship with Patrick Graham. He's somebody that I've thrown out there before. And then you're going to see some offensive linemen. I've been saying this for like the last 2 or 3 days, and my guy Sanjeet tweeted it out today, and I could not agree with him more. The coverage, the talk around what is going on with Jackson Powers-Johnson and Colton Miller because they're not practicing right now. It's been rumored that they're both battling injuries. Well, guess what? If those injuries are legit, and if the Raiders are legitimately concerned about those injuries, David Bakhtiari's got some past playing experience with Luke Getsy, left tackle. Charles Leno Jr., best left tackle available on the market. Connor Williams can play guard, and he can play center. I actually think he's better at guard. My only point is if you're legitimately scared about those 2 players' injuries, these 3 guys got to start being on your list. Let's go to number 2 here for our Raiders free agent targets after June 1st, Stephon Gilmore. Gilmore might be the best corner that you see on this list. I'm not going to play around. He had a hell of a year last season. He continues to be a solid player in the NFL, and he still just thrives in single coverage. And the fact that you're going to be able to put him on an island and let your other 4 DBs kind of do their thing, I do think that's kind of what the Raiders are looking for with Patrick Graham. He's played over 1,000 snaps in back-to-back seasons. He is 33 years old. I want to say his 34th birthday is September 19th, so like he's going to be turning 34 at the very, very beginning of the season. But the fact that he still is able to play at a high level and the fact that he played at a high level with the Dallas Cowboys does mean a lot to me because whether you like the Cowboys or not, there's always that thing in the back of my mind that I wonder, can a player handle Raider Nation? I'm a passionate fan. Y'all are passionate fans for watching this video in May. And playing for the Nation is not built for everybody. That's just a fact. But the fact that Gilmore was able to play at a high level with the Cowboys, another team that there's a lot of added pressure just because you're a Dallas Cowboy, and he did it at a high level. That does make me a little bit easier not being afraid to throw Gilmore a small bag and say, you know what? You stayed healthy. You're up there in age, but I know for a fact you'd be the best corner on our team. Well, let's go to number 1 here, and I'm betting on upside. One of the reasons why I'm betting on upside here is with Xavien Howard is because I do think that Camryn Richardson's going to be a good player. I do have some confidence in Ja'Cory and Bennett. I have confidence in Antonio Pierce and Patrick Graham. I've said it probably 10 times on this show already. And I'm going to bet on the upside. I'm going to bet on the fact that Howard's going to be able to stay healthy because he's worked with Patrick Graham, Rob Leonard, and Gerald Alexander. He had 15 interceptions in the 2 years when Alexander was the Miami Dolphins DB coach not too far ago. I also got to give Howard and his agent a little bit of credit that they put out a report right before the NFL draft that said he is 100% medically cleared and that he is ready to go right now. He's also started in 13 games the past 4 years, which I feel like when I bring up Xavien Howard a lot on the show, people always hit me with, he's injury prone. He's not going to be able to stay healthy. I'll also say that usually players that sign at this time of the year, their contracts are a little bit more heavy incentive based. If you told me right now we get Xavien Howard on let's say a 1-year prove-it deal, somewhere where you're sitting around $6 million and he has the opportunity to make over 10 if he can stay healthy, That's a good deal. Why? Because if Howard's on the field, he could still be a hell of a football player. When you can see those coverage stats up on screen, and then when you look at his numbers from 2021 and 2020, that's when he had Gerald Alexander, the Raiders' current safety coach. I get it, safety coach, Howard's a cornerback coach, but I think it just speaks volumes of how talented our coaching staff is from top to bottom, and Xavien Howard would be a phenomenal fit with this defense. So if you want to take a screenshot of my top 10 Raiders free agent targets after June 1st, the reason why I wanted to make this updated video is because the Raiders are going to have a lot more money. Hell, the Raiders are about to have $41 million in salary cap space, which is probably about half the amount of money that would probably put them around like 13 or 14 going into like regular free agency. If you're a top NFL free agent, you're going to be looking at a team like the Raiders, a team that you're like, well, there's no taxes. So if I take a one-year prove-it deal, it doesn't hurt me as much. And then on top of that, they have money to spend. You're looking for a bag. You're looking for an opportunity to make some money. And I think the Raiders are a great opportunity for that. So who did I leave off my list? There's going to be a name. Going to be two names, maybe three names of somebody out there that's watching the show right now, and they're like, Mitch, I can't believe you did not feature that guy on your free agent list. I'm going to be making a lot of free agency videos this entire offseason, and I really hope that AP and Telesco, they're able to sign one, maybe two. If it was up to me, I'm signing Xavien Howard, I'm signing Emmanuel Ogbah. And if the Raiders do those, put your drinking pants on. It's going to be wild. Subscribe so you don't miss it.